for another episode of 10 Minute Tuesday. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. On today's episode, we have Joy from Databricks, Solution Architect, the GOAT. Joy, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm good, Seiko. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate you hopping on today. So we've done a number of these. So go ahead, Joy, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joy Garnett. I have a PhD in engineering from Vanderbilt. I am currently a solutions architect at Databricks, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
So Joy is super humble. Like she's mentioned, rolling off all this stuff like it's super easy. But engineering degree from Vanderbilt, Databricks architect, just super super smart and a very nice person. But I want to hear a little bit more about your journey. So, what really compels you to get into data to begin with?
Right. Yeah. Great question, Seiko. The thing about data is that it has been basically in my professional life for quite a while, right? So I started not officially in data and analytics, but I started in engineering and then in grad school, material science and engineering. And a good chunk of that is collecting data, building experiments to collect data. Then you use that data to make inferences about what's happening in the real world in your life, in the real world itself. And so a good chunk of that was a smoother transition into using data to solve business problems. And so I moved into being a data scientist here at a company in Nashville, Louisiana Pacific. It's a manufacturing company based in downtown Nashville. And it was a different way to view data to solve problems. And so now I'm able to expand on that idea of helping other companies solve problems in their companies using data that they are already collecting.
That's awesome. So, the consistent theme is problem solving, right? What can
Yeah,
we use what you have to solve some intricate and problems that you might have that you're facing?
right.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so thinking about your journey, so we talked about LP, which is how I met you. Worked on a project there
Mhm.
together, but then you're at Databricks now. But at a certain point, you weren't necessarily in this role. So, and you had different roles that you had before. So, what's been your least favorite job to date? And it doesn't necessarily have to be data related. It could be something that you did in high school or whatever, right? Anything that you did in your career.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really great question. I think in any job, there are parts that I didn't like and parts that I did like. I would say in each of those jobs, there are different challenges, but some of the theme of the challenge is uh finding like once you're finding the kind of defining more the nebulous portions. So sometimes in a problem solving open problem, you're trying to identify what is good, what is complete, and what is the best. And sometimes that process can be tricky. So I think that's the challenging part. And that has happened in each of these positions. So I think that's a challenging part of those. But in each of those positions, once that's nailed down, absolutely my favorite part is solving the problem itself.
Love it. Love that. Love that. All right. So thinking about the journey, especially the reason I started this podcast was everybody just talked about all their successes on LinkedIn, right? I have this new certification. I've done this. Everything is glorious. But we know in reality there are lessons that we learn. So I would like to ask, what is your biggest failure? Quotation marks around failure in your career, and what did you learn from that experience?
No, that's great. I think the greatest failure, I would say, one of the things you have to be I had to learn the hard way of being very careful about is not considering the internal politics within a lab, an organization, a company, a team, and just saying, my work will speak for itself. This is objectively the best way to do a thing without necessarily weighing in some of the internal people processes that may be happening around you that you may not know. You may be new and then walk into a situation where person A doesn't like person B. And even though the objectively best way to solve a problem is involving both of those two people together, nope. So working around that, I would say I have made that mistake before and eventually, made up with people, not even knowing I was upsetting someone when asking very specific questions that may be considered direct. But I'm like, no, I just need to know, like, why is this happening this way? I would say that failure everything's fine now. Everybody's made up. I consider this person to be a mentor now, but I didn't realize that I had upset them until much later. I was like, oh man, I really didn't mean it like that. But everything worked out. But I would say a failure was that I take into account now is watching a lot of how people around me or around a specific problem, how they interact with each other or choose not to interact with each other. Has been something I learned.
Love that. That's a great lesson. And
Yeah.
as a consultant now, like doing my own thing, like one of the things that I am realizing and trying to get more of a gauge on, but you never know, is those behind the scene conversations that are happening, right? The people personality, the power struggles, and everything that come along with it. And you're walking into this line of fire of like, hey man, I'm just trying to provide a solution that helps.
Right. I don't know what this is,
Yeah.
but okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. Awesome. All right. So, target audience for one of my target audience for this podcast are people who are starting out in their career in data, or they're trying to branch into data analytics, data science, and data engineering. So, really, what is one piece of advice you give someone who's starting out their career?
One piece of advice that I would give for someone joining into the data analytics space or someone who's already in data analytics but looking to branch out. So you're either moving from academia into corporate or you're in corporate and you're looking to move into another section or different type. Or if you're looking to join pre-sales or you're getting into pre-sales and leaving out, the best piece of advice I receive is the same that I would give. And that is to do informal interviews. Talk to people who are currently doing what it is that you want to do, or is at least one or two steps above what it is that you want to do. And it seems scary because you're like, I don't want to cold call strangers. What if they're not nice? Or what if they're like, leave me alone? What I have found is that 9 times out of 10, people are open with it, sharing their journey. Like, even I think of myself, like I'd be open to sharing my journey. And the people who aren't people you want in your network anyway. So they self-select out, which is nice. So yeah, talk to people doing what it is that you want to do. And keep up with them. And if they give you advice, come back and say like that advice worked. Or that book was really helpful. And a lot of that. Start doing that now before you are looking for a position. Start doing that as soon as possible. Like put it on your calendar as that thing that you want to procrastinate on doing, but go ahead and talk, and that's how you build connections, like genuine connections with people. And you get the real lowdown on what's really happening, what their day-to-day is actually like, rather than something you can read on a Google blog.
I love that. That's fantastic advice. That's really sound advice. Like that's advice I wish I had earlier in my career. To talk to people and really understand how accessible people really can be. You do have some are like, "Rah, I don't want to talk to you," but
Yeah.
then but more
They
like,
exist.
yeah, but you do
Yeah.
have more time, like you said, more people are more accessible. It kind of leads me into like my own journey. Like I said, I went independent earlier last year,
Mm.
and I did a similar thing where I kind of cold called, or if I saw someone who had a founder or was a startup, like I just blindly reached out to them on LinkedIn and was like, "Hey, do you have 15 minutes for a chat?" And the amount of people who were like receptive to that, like actually blew my mind.
Yeah. They're really great. I did that with a phone call. There was someone doing his name is Simba and he owns Future Store and he was running a podcast. And I just reached out and be like, hey, can I talk to you for like 15, 20 minutes? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other individual who was helping or who was also on the podcast, I reached out to them the same way. And they were like, yeah, absolutely, let's talk. And I ended up having in-person lunch with Simba, who's like a CEO. And I was like, oh my gosh. Never would have happened if you never like say something or
Yeah.
talk to people. But yeah,
What's the old African American proverb? Shoot or shoot.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome. All right, Joy, tell me about the most influential people in your life and how they made an impact on you.
I will say the most influential people, definitely my mom, on the family front. Her story as a whole, she was born in the 40s and grew up in South Georgia, which is an entirely different world than we are in now. But getting the perspective of how strong she had to be and how upfront she was about education. She got her master's at Alabama State in 71. And she became an educator. Like education was life. Education was a way out. Education is how she was able to have a much different life than other people around her. So, how important education was for me came from her directly, hands down. There are other people that were also influential, several teachers who, gave me confidence in things that I was nervous to do. But once I did them, it ended up working out and I ended up growing from them. Nancy Campbell, who was head of our McNair Scholars Program at Alabama at the time, quite a few individuals that I worked in their labs. They were fantastic. I think Professor Wiest at Alabama, I think he's a dean now. He was also very influential. So finding those allies who make you go a baby step outside of your comfort zone, those are the people that are very helpful in driving not your only your career forward, but who you are as a person and your self-concept forward.
Love that.
So,
Great answer. Shout out to moms. They always push us. Like they
right.
always like,
Yeah.
yeah. Moms are
Yeah,
great.
there was no not studying.
No,
Like you're
no.
studying. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
go through this, go through all of that so that you could sit. No,
No, no. That's
yeah,
awesome. And it's so cool about the professors because, like, at least for me, I remember the ones who really challenged me
yeah,
and, like, was like, saw something in me that I might not saw myself, but they were like, nah, you have another level. You can get higher. I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. But, those are the ones
right.
that still remember to this day. So that's
In high
awesome.
school and middle school, there have
Yeah.
been some fantastic teachers and professors that, yeah, education has definitely been the way out for me.
Love it. Love it. All right, Joy, where can listeners find you at online?
LinkedIn. I'm really not online that often. I'd say, yeah, connect on LinkedIn. We can do, talks. I can give informational interviews of my experience in grad school if you want to learn more about what that was like, or as a postdoc, more about what that was like and sort of some of the grant writing bit, as well as being a data scientist in corporate and now in the pre-sales role. So please feel free to reach out and say hi, and we can totally talk. I'm open.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joy. This was great. It's fantastic. And if you haven't already, like I said in the beginning, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Have a great day.